When the news reached the villagers that the shepherd's goat had given birth to a human child, they beat the shepherd to a pulp. The villagers said that he must have done something wrong to the goat. That is why the goat gave birth to a human child. The poor shepherd was crying and pleading. For the sake of Allah, believe me, I am not like that. I agree that this goat is dearer to me than my life, but I have never done anything wrong. I am telling you the truth, and this is the truth. I started telling this when I was grazing my goats. Then suddenly my favorite goat Chandni stopped at one place and started behaving in a strange manner. I got very worried. I thought maybe she has seen a snake, but I was shocked when I went closer and saw that a baby goat was lying under the tree drinking milk near her. I immediately picked up the kid and my goat kept licking him continuously. At first I was shocked, but I thanked God after seeing the kid. You all know that I have been childless for a long time, so I picked up the kid and brought him home and started raising him like my son. The villagers did not believe the shepherd and crossed all limits of cruelty against him. They decided to beat him up and drive him out of the village. He was given 2 days to leave the village with his belongings, wife, goats and child. Some sensible people thought, the matter is such that it should be investigated further. We have never heard of a goat giving birth to a human child. We should go to a scholar and find out the truth of this matter. All those people went to a scholar and told him the whole matter. The scholar gave advice. To find out the reality of the child, help of a doctor should be sought. The villagers called the doctor. He examined the child and said that this child is absolutely healthy and has definitely been born among humans. This child cannot be of a goat. The villagers still suspected the shepherd. When they could not find the real father of the child, they assumed that the shepherd was the culprit. They expelled the shepherd from the village. The poor shepherd went to another village with his wife, goat and child. He built a hut near a forest. They started living a life of their own. He and his wife raised the child as if he was their own son. The shepherd's goat also loved the child very much. She would smell him like her own children and feed him her milk. Then it was God's will that there was a merchant's house next to the shepherd's house. That merchant had 2 wives. One of his wives was very well behaved and had a good temperament. She had exchanged greetings with the shepherd's wife and they had become friends. The merchant's noble wife loved the shepherd's son very much. Seeing him, she would often get teary-eyed and sometimes she would pick him up in her lap. One day the shepherd's wife asked her, "Sister, why do you become so terrified after picking up my child? It seems you are very sad and something must have happened to you. What has happened?" Meanwhile, the merchant's second wife, who was very jealous of their friendship and was very jealous of the child, came to them and said, "Do you two keep whispering to each other, and what a bad sound your child makes? Why do you come to our house every day with a frown on your face? Stay in your house." Tears rolled down the eyes of the merchant's noble wife. She was stunned and returned home immediately with tears in her eyes. In the evening, when the shepherd returned home after grazing the goats, his wife told him the whole story while crying. She said, "I had gone to the next house. There, the merchant's wife, who is very pious and generous, is always happy to see my child, and her eyes fill with tears. When I asked her the reason, she was about to tell me something when the merchant's second wife came and scolded me and threw me out of the house." The shepherd fell into deep thought after hearing this. He said that there is definitely something fishy. I think that the cunning wife of the merchant must be thinking something evil. You do this, go to their house again when you get a chance and find out the truth. Maybe we will find out the real father of our son. The shepherd's wife said, "Okay, I will definitely go tomorrow." The next day when the shepherd went to graze the goats, his wife found an opportunity and reached the merchant's house. The merchant's cunning wife Kulsum had gone to the market, and the merchant's other innocent wife Zarina was alone at home. When Zarina saw the shepherd's wife coming home, she immediately took the child and started playing with him. Zarina said while talking to the child, "Do you know I also had a son as beautiful as you? Exactly like you, but I don't know where he got lost. I see the same thing in you. I don't understand. Has the earth eaten up my child, or has the sky swallowed him up? My child was nowhere to be found." The shepherd's wife became alert and said, "Sister, what happened to you? Tell me openly, why are you crying so much?" Then the merchant's innocent wife Zarina started telling her story. "I am the merchant's second wife. Actually, my husband had no children from his first wife, so my husband was compelled to marry me for the second time. After a few months Allah blessed me and I became a child. My husband's happiness knew no bounds. He started loving me a lot, but he did not like this thing at all. She would quarrel with me on some pretext and say all sorts of things. Many times she even tried to beat me and abort my child, but she failed every time. When the day of the child's birth came closer, I started having a strange dream every night. In my dream, there was a woman who I was attracted to. I used to be covered. She was running away after snatching my child from me. I would wake up in fear and tell all this to my husband. My husband would say that this is your misconception, do not think too much in this situation. Allah will make everything better, but I never felt peace. No, every night I used to have the same dream. Then by God's will one day Allah gave me a moon-like son, just like your son. There was happiness in our house. My husband gave a lot of money to the poor, and in return they started giving lots of blessings to my child. But this thing felt like an arrow in the heart of my co-wife Kusum. Then one day this doomsday moment came. When we were sleeping at night, I made my child sleep with me, but when I opened my eyes at some point in the night, I saw that my child was not on the bed. I immediately got up from my bed and started looking for the child. Sometimes I would look under the bed thinking that the child might have fallen on the ground somewhere. When I could not find the child anywhere, I raised a hue and cry and started wailing. Where did my child go when my husband, the merchant, opened his eyes? So he too was left in agony. Kulsum was sitting and consoling me. From that day till today we searched a lot for my child, but my child could not be found. Saying this, the merchant's wife started crying bitterly. Meanwhile, the merchant's cunning wife Kulsum had come home. She had overheard some of their conversation. She was very angry at the merchant's innocent wife. She was thinking to herself, what if the merchant's wife reveals my secret, and why is Zarina so attached to this shepherd's son? Is this the same child whom I had made my victim? Then she shook her mind and said, no, I had buried him well in the ground. How could that child be alive? This must be my misconception. I also think so many things. But she was not getting peace. She kept thinking about the place where I had buried the child. Should I go and see if someone has taken the child from there? She started thinking, by now the child must have become a skeleton. Then she got a chance and quickly ran towards the forest where she had buried Zarina's child. She quickly started digging there and looking for the child. No, here the shepherd was also grazing goats in the same forest. The shepherd's goat's eyes fell on that woman. The goat started looking at the woman carefully and started thinking whether she is the same woman who had brought and thrown the child here that night. Kulsum was getting worried. When she looked in the pit, there was no trace of the child. She was going crazy. She kept thinking, where did the child go? Maybe someone took the child from here. Then she thought, this is even better news because now the child cannot reach anyone. Thinking this, she returned home. The merchant's cunning wife Kulsum had the merchant under her control. She kept whispering against poor Zarina. This second wife of yours is definitely unlucky. Allah had blessed you with a beautiful son. But she ate her own child. The merchant no longer loved Zarina much and rarely visited her. One night Zarina again got frightened in her dream. She kept having the same dream repeatedly, that her child was in her lap and a woman snatched him away and ran away. No, waking up from the dream, she started screaming and shouting. The merchant came to her and tried to calm her down by consoling her. "What is your problem? Why are you crying?" the merchant asked Zarina. Zarina said, "Today again I had the same dream, that a woman is taking away my child from me and I am not able to do anything." No? Kulsum was also listening to this. She got very angry and said, "Why are you blaming me again and again?" Zarina said while crying, "I am not blaming you. I am just telling you what I am dreaming." As the shepherd's son was growing up, he had now started grazing goats with his father, but the shepherd always explained to his son, "Son, make your own bill, study, grazing goats is not a job." Then the shepherd decided to give his son a good education. Meanwhile, Tajir's wife did not know that the son for whom she was yearning was growing up with her. Tajir's wife was getting attached to that boy. Sometimes she would hide behind the door and sometimes she would look at the boy from outside and keep crying. Here the shepherd went to the forest to graze his goats. Suddenly the weather turned bad. Strong winds started blowing and it was raining very heavily. The shepherd gathered his goats and sat under a tree and waited for the rain to stop. This was God's will. The rain was so heavy that a heavy branch of a tree fell on the shepherd. The goats escaped by running away from there, but the shepherd fell on the ground. The shepherd's faithful goat Chandni kept trying to pull the shepherd out of there. That goat kept coming in a loud voice. No. But she could not save the speechless shepherd. The shepherd died there. That day, disaster struck the shepherd's house. The shepherd's son Hassan was sitting nearby and crying bitterly. In the evening, the shepherd's funeral prayers were held and he was buried. The shepherd's wish was that his son should study and become a big man and become a Hafiz-e-Quran. His wife spent the days of Idad with great difficulty. She used to stay locked in her room. Neither would she go out nor would she let her child go out. She herself would stay hungry but would definitely feed her son. The shepherd's relatives kept the goats for a few days and arranged for their food and water. When the shepherd's wife's Idad was over, she thought that now she will graze the goats herself and earn a living for herself and her son by selling their milk. After this, she started grazing her goats all day long. When his son Hassan returned from school, he would go to help his mother. The reality was that Hassan was the light of the house. People in that house were thinking that their child was no more in this world. On the other hand, Tajir's cunning wife Kulsum was ruling the house. Poor Zarina was reduced to a maid in her own house. She worked like a servant all day and endured all the excesses of her co-wife Kulsum. She never complained to anyone. When she was alone, she would pray and cry a lot in front of Allah. That day she would have wept before her God and relieved her heart, and she would have gained patience. Tajir also did not pay any attention to Zarina now. Here when Hassan came home after studying Quran, he told his mother, "Mother, today I have completed the study of Quran. I have fulfilled Baba's wish." Hassan further said, "Mother, a very big lecture has been organized in our Jamia. Big Maulvi Sahab will also come there and give us gifts, but I will not go there at all." His mother asked, "Son, why? What is the reason that you will not go there?" Hassan said, "Mother, my clothes are torn and old, children make fun of me by calling me poor, so I will not go there." The shepherd's wife hugged him and said, "Son, I have saved some money by selling goat's milk. I will go to the market today and bring good clothes and shoes for you." Then she said, "Tajir's wife in the house next to ours told me to do some work in their house, so what do I have to do all day? I will do some sweeping and mopping in Tajir's house next door for some time so that I can teach you further." The next day the shepherd's wife reached Tajir's house. The cunning wife of the trader was looking angrily at the shepherd's wife. She did not feel like hiring the shepherd's wife because she wanted Zarina to do all the household work. But Zarina was not well for quite some time, so she hired the shepherd's wife. The shepherd's wife felt very sorry for Zarina because she had told her whole story to the shepherd's wife a few days ago. Poor Zarina really started considering herself unlucky and started saying, "I cannot even go out of the house. Now I have to live and die in this house because my parents are also not in this world." The shepherd's wife consoled her and said, "Why do you blame yourself? Because of these things of yours, your co-wife turned your husband towards her. Have faith in yourself. If Allah has taken away one of your children, then Allah will give you another child. What age have you passed? Now just look at my condition. I have been childless all my life, but I never let my husband even look at another woman. You too should attract your husband towards you. Take care of him and make him feel your presence." If Tajir Bai is Kulsum's husband, then he is your husband as well. Zarina started understanding the shepherd's wife's words a little bit. Now the same Zarina started grooming herself. Now she wore clean clothes and cooked food of her husband's choice. No. And she took care of every small and big need of her husband. Seeing this, Kulsum became very restless. One day when the shepherd's wife was leaving her son at home to go to the merchant's house for work, she said to her son, "Son, today you have a holiday from school, you do this, go and graze the goats. I had to go to work soon, otherwise my wife will get angry." Saying this, the shepherd's wife came to Tajir's house. There was an open plot outside Tajir's house in which a lot of grass had grown. Hassan took his goats and started feeding them grass in the same plot. Hassan was explaining to his goat Chandni, "Stop here and eat grass and do not enter this house." Hassan's goat Chandni was very intelligent and stopped there and started eating grass. Hassan entered that house and went to his mother. That day Zarina had a very high fever and Tajir was also taking great care of his wife. He spent the whole night with his wife. Seeing this, Tajir's wife Kulsum was very jealous. If she had her way, she would never have allowed Tajir to go to Zarina. Kulsum was thinking this in her mind now. Surely it is the shepherd's wife who teaches him the Patras. Otherwise, where did Zarina get so much wisdom from? Whenever she was ill, Tajir never even asked about her, and today he is taking such good care of her. She was lost in these thoughts. Meanwhile, Zarina's heartbeats had become very fast because Hassan had set foot in her house. A mother is a mother. After all, she had given birth to Hassan. Hassan was still a child and had grown up in poverty. He had never seen expensive toys, but Kulsum's daughter's toys were lying in the same room where he was standing. Hassan took out the toys from the glass cupboard and sat there and started playing. Kulsum's daughter was also a big fighter like Kulsum. When Hassan touched her toys, she got angry and started hitting Hassan and quickly snatched her toys from him. Poor Hassan started crying bitterly. Meanwhile, the shepherd's wife was washing utensils in the kitchen when Zarina heard the child crying. So of course she said that my child is crying, but Tajir was thinking that Zarina is saying this because of fever. Zarina immediately ran out of the room like a mad person. When she went near Hassan and saw him crying, God knows what happened to her. She immediately hugged Hassan and started saying, "No, my child, don't cry now because your mother has come to you." Hassan was also feeling the warmth of his mother's lap by hugging Zarina. Here outside, when Hassan's goat Chandni heard Hassan's crying voice, she immediately entered Tajir's house. The goat's eyes had turned blood red. It was staring at Kulsum's daughter. Before the goat could attack the girl, Kulsum also came out of the room. Although a long time had passed since this sentence was said, the speechless goat had recognized Kulsum. This was the same woman who had attacked her many years ago. A lot of atrocities were committed on this innocent child Hassan. The one who buried Hassan in the ground was none other than this woman. The goat did not see or think anything and attacked Kulsum. Kulsum immediately fell on the ground. The goat started scratching her face with its teeth. Everyone backed away in fear. Tajir was shocked to see all this. He immediately tried to move the goat away from there. Zarina was terrified, thinking what happened, that this speechless animal attacked Kulsum. By the time Tajir moved the goat back, the goat had already bled Kulsum's face. When the goat started attacking again, Hassan quickly moved forward and hugged the goat to his chest. Crying, he went out with his goat. Meanwhile, Tajir's wife was repeatedly thinking about the shepherd's son. That child must be alone at home. What must he be doing? He must be hungry. Had she eaten food or not? One day she went to his house hiding from the family and said to Hassan, "Son, until your mother does not come home, you do one thing, come with me." When Hassan started going with Zarina, the goat started pulling Hassan by his clothes. That tasteless goat was not letting him go with Zarina. Then Zarina took that goat with her and brought both of them to her house. When Tajir saw the goat, his eyes turned red with anger. He ran to kill the goat, but Zarina immediately came forward and said that perhaps this dumb animal, the goat, is trying to tell us something. The merchant said, "It seems that along with being ill, you have also lost your mind." Meanwhile, Hassan, who was standing nearby, fell down in prostration and started crying bitterly. He started smoking. "Oh Allah, I don't know what this speechless goat wants to tell me. And why has this goat created a commotion in this house? Oh God, please give this goat a tongue so that my dear goat's life can be saved from this attack." When Hassan's prayers were over, he came to the goat and said, "Oh my dear goat Chandni, tell me, what do you want to tell everyone?" Meanwhile, the goat started speaking on the orders of Allah and started telling that many years ago, we were grazing grass in the forest, when a woman came running with a child wrapped in her arms. As soon as she came, she dug a pit and buried the child in it. Then the goat pointed towards Hassan and said, "That child was none other than Hassan." As soon as Kulsum heard this, the ground slipped from under her feet. Hearing the next thing the goat said, Tajir sat down on the ground holding his head. The goat said that the woman was none other than the same woman whom I had attacked. When this woman buried the child and left, I immediately dug the ground and took out the child and took him in my mouth and went to my master shepherd. When people got excited that the goat had a human child, they looked at the shepherd with suspicion. The shepherd tried very hard to explain himself to everyone, but people did not listen to the shepherd. Although he was a good man, he prayed 5 times a day. The villagers accused the shepherd and expelled him from the village, and my master shepherd started living in a hut near your house, but he gave good education to his child and raised him well. But when this child grew up, I was not fortunate enough to see him. He left this world. I am a speechless animal. I will pray to Allah that, O Allah, never forgive this woman. Zarina, the wife of the merchant, started crying bitterly after hearing all this, and she immediately went forward and hugged Hassan. And she said, "This child kept growing in front of my eyes, and I did not even know that he is my blood, he is my son." Tajir could not even imagine that his wife Kulsum could do such cruelty to his child. Kulsum's face was badly disfigured and she was screaming due to pain. When she heard the goat's words, she immediately denied it, but a large crowd had gathered there. Everyone started saying that these speechless animals cannot speak like humans, but if she is speaking on Allah's orders, then this woman is a liar. At this, Kulsum screamed and said, "Yes, I did everything. You got married for the second time while I was alive, and on top of that she gave birth to a beautiful son, and if this boy had become the heir to your property, then where would my daughter have gone? That is why I wanted to kill this boy, but unfortunately he got saved today." On hearing this, the villagers standing there were shocked. As if lightning had struck, they were all shocked and ashamed. They had given such a big punishment to an innocent person. Then the elders of that village immediately fell at the feet of the shepherd's wife and started asking for forgiveness. They said that you should come back to our village. The shepherd's wife was very kind at heart. She put forth only one condition, that she would return to the village only when justice was done to her. Then all the villagers decided that Tajir's wife would be put to work in the village so that she could atone for her mistake. Tajir was so helpless that he killed his wife. Then Tajir divorced his wife in anger. After this, when the shepherd's wife started returning to the village, Hassan started crying. Then Tajir respectfully kept the shepherd's wife in his house as his sister, and both Tajir and Zarina hugged their son and cried a lot. Now Hassan was with both his mothers. I started living my life happily. Dear friends, how did you like this incident? I hope you liked it a lot. Majid, to listen to such incidents, please subscribe to our channel and